YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Rome 2, and this is going to be the second match I played against my last opponent, this time on the map of Kink. This is an asymmetric map in which one player gets a huge hill advantage. However, I actually like this map because the hill that the defender gets is pretty bald, as in it doesn't have a lot of trees, which means that they would be vulnerable to skirmishing. However, skirmishing is not the approach that I've decided to bring because the map was a kink. I was worried that if my opponent actually came down into these woods, all my skirmishers would then become rather useless, since the forest does give folks a lot of cover. So let's take an above look here. I've got 6 Persian hoplites, 4 noble blood cav, 3 eastern cataphracts, 4 mercenary Sarmatian lancers. My opponent has 3 mercenary Scythian horse. Up front, he's got 3 Eastern Archers. On the flanks, 2 Pontic Peltists, backed up by 30 Spears, 3 Pontic Swordsmen, and a Bronze Shield General. And he also has 2 Noble Blood Cav, I think, hidden in the woods out on the sides. So, again, this is going to be a fairly long battle, and I'm going to go ahead and put it into fast forward, and then go back into the above view so you can kind of watch how things unfold. My opponent tries to do skirmishing with his horse archers. This is a good idea. In fact, I've seen a lot of players who like to use their horse archers this way, in the sense that they'll just park their army in the back and then just make you approach while they continue to harass you with the horse archers. Now, some people may think that's camping or whatever, but it's actually just kind of smart use of your horse archers, because they need time and they need to be able to expend their ammo and to cause problems, and they're not going to get that unless you do something like this. Actually, sorry, it was not 2 Noble Blood Cav, it's 1 Pontic Royal Cav, which is over here. And then let's go ahead and go into play. I missed something here, so we'll actually watch it on the above cam just for a minute. I'll go back into the regular screen in a minute, but I forgot that I had my Mercenary Sarmatian Lancers split up. My opponent charged one and destroyed it without a single loss of his Noble Blood Cav, but now I'm going to give chase and just basically try and damage as many of his Noble Blood Cav as I can. A Noble Blood Cav is more than a match for a Mercenary Sarmatian Lancer. My guys will do good on the charge, all things considered, but then they'll get cut down just because the Noble Blood Cav have a very much superior armor and health and basically everything at that point. But the charge, he will do some pretty good damage, which is the reason why I like Mercenary Lancers. And this is going to illustrate again a point that just something I need to work on. As players, we all have stuff we need to work on. My situational awareness is poor whenever I'm managing a couple of different sides of the fight. So I guess if you're fighting me, that's probably what you want to try and do, is make me have to watch 2 different sides. And anyway, if you look, I'm not paying attention. It took me a long time to finally charge that Lancer back in. Then right here, my opponent does decide to charge his Noble Blood Cav, so I countercharge with my Eastern Cataphracts. But his plan, I think, was to get my Cataphracts within range of his Javelins, which was a good plan. So I'm going to have to bring my Persian Hoplites up to push his Javelins back. And you can see that he's not even going to waste his ammo on anything besides my Cataphract. Again, very good decision on my opponent's part. The more damage he can do to these guys, the more problems he can cause, the better. So you're going to see that he's going to flee from that engagement. But the problem is I don't want to just let this fight grind out forever. My Cataphracts will win, but I mean, I'd like to get that fight over with, but at the same time, I can't just let these Pontic Peltists rain javelins down on me from above. So I'm going to use my infantry to push him back. 30 Spears could probably beat my Persian Hoplites, but since they're fleeing in front of them, I've actually been managing to get some kills. And then out here, his Noble Blood Cav finally does beat my men, but I at least finally managed to kill 20 of his men. Not a good trade, but it's what happened. And then over here, I've still got these Mercenary Sarmatian Lancers, and I've just spread them very thin. At this point, I'm okay with his Horse Archers wasting all their ammo on them, as long as they waste nearly all their ammo, because it's not a good cost trade-off for my opponent. And he actually almost loses his 30 Spears here, and his Noble Blood Cav does get singled out and destroyed. He's going to bring up the reinforcing unit, but it won't get here in time. So I guess he did have 2 Noble Blood Cav and then 2 of these Pontic Royal Cav. I was not braced here with my Spearmen. My opponent takes advantage of it and just gets a sick number of kills right here in the Pontic Royal Cav. They're very good at this. They're basically kind of like companions. They may be a little better than companions, though. Yeah, anyway, tough unit, and then he's going to do the same thing. This unit's not braced. He's shooting at it. He's charging it. This is... Some people may think it's folly to charge your Cav into Spears, but in a situation like this, it is not. Not really. I guess it depends. His Pontic Royal Cav's actually getting shot by his own archers now, too, and getting countercharged. Was about to get countercharged by my Cataphract. So if he would have stopped shooting, this would have been worth it. But all these javelins that he's throwing in here are actually killing a lot of his own men, which is very much going to help me, because I had basically already lost these hoplites from overextending anyway. Now here he has a second Noble Blood Cav that my Cataphracts charge, and again they're going to destroy it. But here comes the fun part. My opponent does have pikes, which means that he's not going to have much offensive capability, and my cataphracts can easily handle his swordsmen. I'm not worried about his swordsmen. I'm worried about his pikes and his thurio spears and his pontic peltis. Those are my main worries. So I'm going to split my noble blood cav to each flank and then just run away from his pikes in the center just to try and split up his army as much as possible. And if I can split my opponent up, I feel like I might be able to gain an advantage and do some good. Anyway, these Pontic Peltis stray off course. I'm going to give them a quick charge with my Noble Blood Cav. I can't leave these guys here forever because he's got a lot of supporting units nearby. But the charge did manage to kill a fair number of these Pontic Peltis. And then you can see he continues to fire at my Cataphracts, which is a good choice for my opponent. Every little bit of kills he gets on my Cataphracts means that the game probably becomes more favorable for him because it's really my most dangerous unit. And here, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm straying way too close to all of his men and taking a lot of archer fire that was completely and wholly unnecessary. Yeah, my guys just get shot up bad here. This is a huge mistake. Huge mistake. But elsewhere, things are going okay for me. I'm singling out his units kind of piecemeal here. Again, these Pontic Peltis get overextended. And don't know what happened to my charge with the Noble Blood Cav, but I'm going to bring them in. His pikes are going to try and support, but pikes really can't support. They have to be here for a long time before they would be effective, and I'm going to be able to single out his Pontic Peltis and destroy it as well. These Cataphracts are now free, and then that unit up here actually routed, so huge blunder on my part here. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was dumb. Back here, I catch his Horse Archers and then start to try and single out this flank, but my opponent is trying to get after my Cav here, and that's good. So he's going to just pull away from my Persian Hoplites and try and get to my cavalry. Out here, I managed to catch all of his Horse Archers back here closer to the red line with my Eastern Cataphracts. I get a lot of kills, but his guys actually do fairly well. For Mercenary Scythian Horse Archers, they did a pretty good number. I don't know if they were cost-effective or not based on the units they killed, but they did pretty good. I didn't deal with them nearly as well as I could have here, just pushing them back with a couple of Persian Hoplites. But again, I was able to single out those units. My opponent continues to spend quite a bit of ammo, which is good. Eventually, if he runs out of ammo, he won't have anything to shoot at my cavalry, and that's going to be good. But I need some infantry left for the late game, or I'll have no hope of breaking his defenses. Again, last unit of Mercenary Sarmatian Horse Archers. My Eastern Cataphracts will get them. This Thurio Spear becomes annoyingly survivable out here. Again, I just have Persian Hoplites, so nothing great on my part. But I'm going to have to threaten this pikeman, so see how I'm going to bring a cav unit behind it to make him turn around. And then I'll be able to bring these cav to bear right here. So I'll be able to come in behind and knock out his Thurio Spear. So at this point, my opponent has done well in a few engagements, like killing this Cataphracts. And I've done well on a few engagements by singling out his men, but we've both made mistakes. So we'll see how, as the game progresses, just what happens in the end. Here I get a nice rear charge with my Cataphracts. It's just going to decimate this Thurio Spear. They will not survive that. This is the main reason why I brought the Cataphracts, just hoping for good charges. And I've had my general back here in reserve. I'm going to go ahead and bring him up now. So my opponent is going to go ahead and form up a box. And I think these guys, they do have shield wall, the Pontic Swordsman. And my opponent would be smart to use that whenever the time comes for me to charge. He's obviously going to have pikes coming from certain directions, but he can't cover all his directions with pikes. This Thurio Spear is badly wounded. This pikeman, or he's got these two pikemen here, but this one out here is singled out, and I'm able to charge into it. But again, these pikes are much more resilient than I expected them to be. They're completely surrounded by heavy melee cav and infantry, and they're fighting fairly well. Not really sure what's happening here or why, but I mean, they are completely surrounded, and I'm having a hard time dispatching them. So it may be because they have 55 health, but I would have thought the 45 morale would have been enough to kick it. But here's one of the dangers of playing as Parthia too. If you take a notice of this balance bar, my army was much smaller than my opponent's to begin with because I brought so much cavalry, and if you lose too much of your force and that balance bar drops too much, you can suffer a chain rout, and I am perilously close to that at this moment. So it's something you need to be aware of. Here they do manage to get their pikes back out, which I don't know how you do that in the middle of a fight. Some of you complain about this, some of you are okay with it. Honestly, it doesn't, I know it's not realistic. It doesn't bother me horribly bad at this point just because pikemen are so bad. But yeah, he gets his pikes back out. So you got to keep an eye on pikemen when you're fighting them. But again, this unit's singled out. I'll just get my cavalry away from it so I don't risk losing cav. and then I'll just use my infantry to continue surrounding him and destroying him. But it's going to take Persian hoplites a while, because these pikemen are probably in a sword fight just as good as my Persian hoplites. Persian hoplites, well, they'd have better melee defense, but that'd be about it. Anyway, he turns back into my men, and I'm going to have to get out of this fight again. And I could bring my cav in again, but again, I just don't want to risk getting them killed. So my opponent has gone ahead and set up in a, what do we got here, 1, 2, 3, I guess a hexagon formation, a noob hexagon if you want. Seems like whatever the geometry is, we just put the qualifier noob in front of it, even though I think all kinds, I've seen people using it in tournaments and everything, so the stinking mobile noob box is sometimes a huge thing to break. But in this case, my opponent is boxing up. He should. He doesn't really have a whole lot of other options. He doesn't want to keep getting singled out. Some of these units can do shield wall, but if you'll notice, his box is fairly wide because he's trying to accommodate his archers. And he's got some swords with pikes behind him. Again, not a bad move. That way, if I go to charge his swords, my cataphracts will come through and get impaled on his pikes. Though I do believe my opponent is running low on ammunition with his Eastern archers, and he's firing at my Persian hoplites, which some would say it's a good target, some would say it's a bad target. It's a good target in the sense that if I don't have any infantry, my assault on his defensive formation is going to be worthless. It's a bad target in the sense that these guys have really nice shields for their price, and they're fairly low cost, which means that he's not getting a huge bang for his buck. But again, if it were to tilt the balance of power in his favor, it would work. Now, he's bringing his swords out here threatening. I would absolutely welcome him bringing his swords out here because I would destroy them. Now, he may have been thinking to use them as bait, bring my cav in, and then hit him with archers, so I was also aware of that, which is why I pulled my Persian hoplites back. Like, I'll gladly take that engagement, but not within range of your archers. And of course, you know, he's not going to let that happen either. So I'm just going to start surrounding my opponent. I need a couple of units from all directions. This way, his box can't be reformed. If you bring all of your strength from one side, they can just reform. And honestly, my target here is going to be his Pontic swordsmen, and I want to target them with my cataphracts. Noble blood cav and Persian hoplites will come in later. And I am going to have to rest my men. A lot of my heavy cav is very tired. So I got to make sure my men are extremely well rested and ready for this fight. And I think with my general, I think I brought the wrong general's ability. Yeah, I meant to bring the one that comes with battle rhythm and second wind so that I could use trample and still keep my general from getting tired. So that was a mistake on my part as well. I should have brought the right general ability because it also gives him battle rhythm, which makes his charge much more powerful. Now see, my opponent is trying to keep his pikes in a position to counter a lot of my men, and at this point he is out of ammo with his archers and his Pontic peltist. So no more ammo, I just need to break his box, and again I'm targeting his swordsman, and I'm going to get my Royal Cataphracts ready to just pummel through these swordsmen, who do get their javelins off right before the charge, which was good. I guess his Pontic peltists do have a few javelins left. But anyway, as you can see, I'm going to plow over his swordsmen and then just keep charging. And his pikes, or his swordsmen here, get charged by cataphracts, and I'm just going to plow right into all his men. I'm going to plow through his men who have followed and into his skirmishers, and the reason for that is because if I can kill a whole bunch of these skirmishers, this balance of power bar won't be so unfavorable for me. The danger of it is that my opponent can now actually collapse in on my general, and if my general gets caught and killed, my men will most certainly rout. But again, keeping these Persian hoplites here is just enough to keep him from collapsing his pikes in on my men, and that's what I need. So I just keep bringing in more units here, and I've got other units I should have already brought up already. I believe that's, yeah, this one should be up here already as well. If I would have brought in another rear charge already, I could have probably supported my general more effectively. I have gotten a lot of kills, 139, but I've also started losing quite a few men. And this Eastern Cataphract here, 181 kills, also doing well, but losing men. All of my Cataphracts have gotten quite a few kills, and I almost have a chain route going here with his men. So it looks like he used battle rhythm on this one. So yeah, anyway, he turns his pikes at this point because he hasn't much choice, so I'm going to start out flanking because of it. And again, I'm going to bring Persian hoplites in to support where I can. My general is stuck at the moment, so I really need to get a route going here, and I need to get it done quickly. But I'm not going to, so I go ahead and start extricating some of my cav, and then I'm going to bring this infantry up to make his general turn around again, because I don't want his general pointing towards my cavalry. So as you can see, I'm trying to get my men to break loose and get back into the back of this Pontic swordsman. Let's rout them. So I'm going to kind of just get my men out of this fight. Overall, I killed more men in that attack than I lost, but I don't have as many men to be lost as my opponent does at this point. And as you can see, the timer's running out. I'm running out of time in which to get this done. And my cataphracts are already quite winded, just because they're super heavy, they get winded very quickly. Again, you can see my opponent trying to reform his position at this point. Again, the Persian hoplites are just waiting for his pikes to turn around before they can attack. But you see how it keeps his pikes from being able to participate in the fight. That's the important piece here. Noble Bloodcav have more staying power, so I'm going to cycle these guys around, bring them back in for more melee kills. And my opponent starts to reform. He's going to try and make a triangle, so he'll set up like this with this triangle. And so I go ahead and, seeing that he's doing this, I go ahead and take my Noble Cav unit, or Noble Blood Cav, into the back of his Bronze Shield General. Just trying to cause any damage I can cause, because once he closes this box, it's going to be harder for me to get into it. So this is going to be somewhat sacrificial for me, but it'll also be worth it, because as you can see, I'm killing quite a few men in his general unit here. And those pikes are going to have a hard time unless they turn around, and if they turn around, my Persian hoplites are going to come in from behind. Meanwhile, I'm able to finish off the rest of his Pontic swordsmen out here. Not doing it probably quite as effectively as I could have, but I am getting them. And I'm just kind of planning my next move. Again, though, time is running very short in the battle, so I'm going to bring these Persian hoplites around right here into this. My opponent's box isn't quite complete, so I'm going to take my guys out of formation attack and get them into the flank of this pikeman to try and get my opponent to start reforming. But you can see that I might have been able to do something similar here, but it's pretty risky. Anyway, my Noble Blood Cav lasts a long time, and managed to kill a decent number of his pikemen. Not great. Bronze shields are pretty sturdy, even when attacked from behind. Fairly sturdy unit. Very good pikemen for the cost. But anyway, as you can see, I'm starting to try and break into my opponent's pike line back here. It's not going particularly well for me, because Persian hoplites, again, are just about the same as these pikemen when it comes to a melee engagement, so even attacking them from their non-pike side is very dangerous for my men. And I really need an engagement, like I need to break in here badly. And my opponent had his pikes down for a second. I charged, but he gets his pikes back down again, so I'm going to have to extricate from this engagement. What I'm hoping, though, is when I do, my opponent will reform again. And as you can see, he is actually reforming again. And this gives me this very, very precious moment here. His pikes are up, and I have a cataphract nearby, so very risky, but I've got to get this cataphract into this bronze shield before they drop their pikes, or else there's no hope for me here. And I successfully do it, dropping all of his pikes in the center, and then these cataphracts can continue into the back of this pike unit, so I actually break into his box, but the time ran out on the battle. So I'm pretty sure I was going to be able to pull that off at that point. It was very well fought. But my opponent, I say very well fought. Both of us made mistakes. It wasn't like pro gameplay or something, but it was a fun battle, and I enjoyed it a pretty great deal. You know, again, I made a lot of mistakes with certain units. Like, I got almost nothing out of my Sarmatian Lancers, just complete misuse of them. You know, pretty happy with the performance from my Persian Hoplites. They were able to keep his pikes, having to pay attention to my men. And only one of my cataphract units did I really squander. Did quite well with the other three, but still, to squander a cataphract is a big mistake. As far as Noble Blood Cav goes, you know, these two not as great. These two definitely doing okay. But yeah, let's take a look at some of the units of my opponent that did well. His Pontic Royal Cav probably didn't get enough kills to pay for itself, though it did get a few fairly impressive charges. His pikemen weren't able to do anything. His general got more kills than any of his other pike units. Again, horse archers probably paid for themselves because they don't cost much. Whether or not they had a big enough impact on the battle is hard to say. His swordsmen got annihilated for the most part. But these Pontic Peltist, a lot of these kills were probably on my cavalry, and that might have been worth it as well. And then these Thurio Spears, this one got quite a few kills. Anyway, again, good game to my opponent. Enjoyed these two games with them. Hope you all enjoyed the footage. HeirofCarthage, signing off for now.